Sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. You didn't stay silent because you had nothing to say. You stayed silent because you realized that not everyone deserves access to your voice. You knew that explaining yourself again would only drain your spirit and dilute your worth. He expected a reaction. He expected drama. But instead you gave him stillness. And in that stillness, you reclaimed your power. When someone lets you go, there's often a temptation to fight for clarity or closure, to demand answers or justification. But you chose a different path. You chose to walk with grace, not desperation. And that choice speaks louder than anything you could have said. You see, silence is misunderstood. Many think it's weakness, that it's giving up. But in truth, it's a language of the strong. It's the language of someone who no longer needs to be understood to know their value. When you stopped explaining, you started healing. When you stopped pleading to be seen, you began to truly see yourself. That silence wasn't empty. It was filled with self-respect, dignity, and an unspoken promise to never again settle for half love. It became the boundary that protected your peace and reminded him of what he lost. He may not say it, but he noticed the absence of your voice, your energy, your presence. It's deafening. It haunts him in the spaces you once occupied, in the habits you once formed together, in the calm that replaced the chaos he expected, because nothing confuses someone more than realizing the one they thought would never leave did, and did so without looking back. That's the power of silence. It lingers, it confronts, it exposes the truth that words often try to cover. You didn't walk away bitter. You walked away better. Not because you had something to prove, but because you had nothing left to give someone who couldn't recognize your worth. You're no longer begging to be heard. You're building a life where your voice is respected and your silence is sacred. And now he watches from a distance, hearing everything he ignored when he had the chance. Your silence told the story that your words never could. You were always the gift. And now that you're gone, your absence speaks volumes. You don't need to explain your worth to someone who was blind to it when it was right in front of them. If someone could look into your eyes, feel your presence, experience your loyalty, and still walk away as if none of it mattered, then no explanation will ever awaken them. Let that truth settle. You are not here to convince anyone of your value. The moment you start pleading to be seen, you shrink your own power. That chapter is closed now. You've already given more than enough evidence of who you are. Let your life do the speaking from here on. There is a strength in silence when it is chosen, not forced. And now your distance is no longer pain. It is purpose. The space you create becomes the statement. While he may expect you to chase, to cry, to justify, your quiet departure will echo louder than any confrontation ever could. Let him wonder. Let him sit with the absence of what he used to take for granted. Because the absence of your energy is no small loss. It's the loss of a heart that was genuine, a soul that loved deeply, and a presence that brought peace. Let your progress be your voice. When you start showing up for yourself, building a life that no longer revolves around being chosen, but around choosing yourself, you become unforgettable. He doesn't need a message from you. He needs to see you rising, evolving, smiling, not for him, but because you've finally remembered who you are without his shadow over your light. Let him watch you in the distance, not bitter, not broken, but beautifully beyond his reach. You owe no explanations for moving on. The world may ask why you walked away, but you don't owe the world the full story. You owe yourself the freedom to heal without justifying every step. Growth is quiet sometimes. It happens in those moments when you delete the message you were going to send, when you breathe instead of reacting, when you choose to protect your peace instead of proving your pain. The loudest thing you will ever say is your silence in the face of someone who expected you to collapse. You're not collapsing, you're ascending. And as you rise, remember, he let go of something priceless. That's not your burden to carry. Let your presence speak now. Let your life speak now. Let your peace speak now. Healing is not about making him regret. It's not about posting your progress to get a reaction or turning your growth into a performance for someone who chose to walk away. True healing is quiet, internal, and sacred. It's about closing the chapter, not because he stopped loving you, but because you finally stopped breaking your own heart trying to hold on. You don't heal to prove a point. You heal because your peace matters more than someone else's opinion. You rise not to be seen, but because staying low was suffocating you. Let him sit with his decisions. Let him watch from a distance as you rebuild brick by brick. But don't make him your motivation. Make yourself the reason. You were not created to be remembered only in the context of someone's regret. You were made to shine fully, not as a reaction, but as a decision. A revolution happens the moment you stop living your life as a response to someone else's absence. When you realize you never needed them to validate your value, that's when everything changes. This transformation isn't about showing him what he lost. It's about reminding yourself of what you always had inside you. The strength to rise, the grace to release, the courage to start again. You don't need revenge. You don't need to make him miss you. You need freedom. Freedom from replaying the past, from questioning your worth, from trying to understand someone who was never capable of understanding you. Healing is a rebellion against everything that told you to stay broken. It's a stand against the lies that said you weren't enough. It's the quiet reclaiming of your voice, your light, your direction. Let your life become about more than a chapter that ended. Let it become a story of rebirth, of finding joy without explanation, of becoming whole without needing anyone to notice. That's the real power. That's the real closure. So let the pain teach you. Not define you. Let the heartbreak sharpen your clarity, not your bitterness. You don't need to make noise to be unforgettable. Just heal, just grow, just live. And in doing that, you'll become a version of yourself, even you never expected. A woman who didn't just survive, but who turned the loss into liberation. True personal growth begins when we stop seeking validation from others and start embracing our true selves, unapologetically and authentically. So often we fall into the trap of measuring our worth based on someone else's opinion, affection, or recognition. This dependency makes us vulnerable, constantly questioning ourselves. Am I enough? Based on the fleeting attention or neglect of someone else? But the truth is, we were never supposed to be defined by another's inability to value us. We were supposed to define ourselves through our values, actions, and inner strength. Growth is not about becoming what someone else wants. It's about becoming who we were always meant to be, even if that means disappointing people who only liked us when we were smaller, quieter, or more convenient. When someone pulls away or chooses to walk out of your life, it's easy to blame yourself. You replay conversations, analyze every word, and wonder what you could have done differently. But that cycle only leads to self-doubt. Instead, we should see their absence not as a loss, but as space that's been cleared for something far more aligned with our truth. Rejection, in many cases, is redirection. Their silence doesn't mean you're unworthy. It often just means they weren't ready for the depth, love, or clarity you bring. Sometimes people are only capable of loving at the level of their own healing. And that has nothing to do with your worth. You are not hard to love. They are just not equipped to recognize a rare soul. In fact, the more you grow into yourself, the more you will outgrow people who only love the version of you that needed saving, fixing, or validating. But that's okay. Growth is lonely at times, but it's also liberating. You stop shrinking to fit into small spaces. You stop begging for breadcrumbs when you know you deserve the whole feast. You begin to realize that the only person you truly need to be enough for is yourself. Because when you find peace in your own presence, you stop chasing it in others. So if someone left, let them. If someone doesn't see you, don't force them to. Let your growth be your response. Let your peace be your power. And let your evolution be the loudest thing they never expected to hear. Healing doesn't come with a timeline, and it certainly doesn't follow a straight path. Some days you'll feel strong, like you've moved on completely, and then out of nowhere, a memory, a place, or even a smell can take you right back to that moment of hurt. That doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're weak. It simply means you're human. We often expect ourselves to recover quickly, to be okay, so we can prove we're strong. But real strength lies in allowing yourself to feel, to sit with your pain without judgment, and to still choose to keep going. Healing is not about pretending the pain never existed. It's about learning to live and grow beyond it. And that journey is deeply personal. There is no universal blueprint that tells you how long it should take or what it should look like. What's important is that in your healing, you don't rush to fill the silence with someone new or mask the emptiness with distractions. You deserve more than a temporary fix. You deserve real, lasting peace. That kind of peace only comes when you're willing to face yourself fully, to forgive the version of you that tolerated what you didn't deserve, and to accept that some chapters had to end, not because you failed, but because they were never meant to carry you forward. Healing is messy. Sometimes it looks like strength, and other times it looks like staying in bed all day. Sometimes it's crying unexpectedly, and sometimes it's laughing again after weeks of feeling numb. Every moment counts. Every step, no matter how small, is progress. The people who expect you to move on quickly are often the ones who never truly understood what you went through. Let them think what they want. Your journey isn't about them. You owe no one an explanation for your healing process. The person you need to honor most right now is the one who's been silently holding it all together, yourself, Ev. Every day that you choose not to give up, even when you feel empty or broken, is a testament to your strength. You are not your pain. You are the resilience that rises from it. You are the quiet courage that keeps choosing hope. So let yourself heal at your own pace. Let your scars remind you not of what hurt you, but of how you survived. There comes a moment in life when you stop chasing closure from the people who hurt you. You stop waiting for an apology that may never come, and you stop hoping they'll finally understand the damage they caused. Because real growth teaches you that peace doesn't come from them admitting they were wrong. It comes from you accepting that their silence, their absence, or their inability to love you properly is no longer your burden to carry. Closure is not something they give you. It's a decision you make, a moment when you tell yourself, I deserve better, and walk away, not because you're angry, but because you finally love yourself enough to stop reopening wounds that someone else never cared to heal. It's one of the hardest things to do, to let go without answers, to accept that you may never get the words you long to hear, the explanation you thought you needed, or the validation you tried so hard to earn. But the truth is, most people can't give you closure because they're not even honest with themselves. You can't expect emotional clarity from someone who runs from accountability, and you can't build peace on a foundation of avoidance and half-truths. So you take your power back. You stop trying to make sense of their behavior and start focusing on what it revealed about you, your patience, your capacity to love, your willingness to give, and most importantly, your need to be seen and valued. You begin to realize that the person you really needed closure from wasn't them. It was the version of yourself that kept holding on, hoping they'd change, believing you weren't enough unless they stayed. You let that version of you go. You forgive yourself for settling, for ignoring red flags, for shrinking to be more acceptable. And in doing so, you set yourself free, because closure is not a conversation. It's a choice, a quiet but powerful shift inside of you that says, I'm done carrying this pain. You learn to make peace with the unanswered questions. You stop waiting for someone else to give you what you can give yourself: clarity, peace, and the permission to move forward. That is real closure. That is real freedom. And when you reach that place, you no longer need their words. You have your own